So now let's look at the 6 aspects of group behavior. But recognizing really what we're talking about is teams. That is, we have a group that has been put together and we are evaluating them collectively, and there's a dependency between the individuals in order to successfully accomplish the task, as opposed to a more general group where it's individuals who are simply interacting, sharing information with each other. So as we look at teams, what are the behaviors of a team? So the first is to look at roles. These are the behavior patterns that are expected of someone in a given position within the team. And so we use Belbin's team roles. There are 3. You can have an action-oriented role, a people-oriented role, or a thought-oriented role. So if you are an action-oriented role within the team, then you are a shaper, an implementer. So you are driving the team to improve. You're probably more practical, reliable, and organized. Maybe you're the person who is making sure the team stays on task and is timely in terms of completion. So if you find that you're the one who is making sure that the team does everything it needs to do and the team is efficient in its work, so you're really about the operations of the team, you're the more action-oriented role. You're the more implementer, the completer, the finisher. Then there are people on the team that are more people-oriented. So they are the one who does more coordination. They're likely to be the one who's kind of the chair or the leader of the team because they're encouraging cooperation. They're encouraging different perspectives. They're going to be someone who's more outgoing and enthusiastic, more of the networker. They're going to be more diplomatic and more of the listener. They're encouraging cohesion of the team. At the same time, clarifying the goals, delegating the tasks, ensuring people have a role and the people are contributing. The third role is a thought-oriented role. So this is the person who is going to be more of the idea generator, the more creative person, the one who looks and sees all the options, comes up with solutions to the problems. They might have more specialized skills. They might be more single-minded, so less of the big picture and more focused on a particular task. So we'll see them more as a specialist in that role of the team. They're the one that is maybe more of the content expert, addressing or coming up with solutions or creative options for a particular aspect of the team's work. So an effective team needs people who are action-oriented, who are getting the task done. You're going to need people who are people-oriented, who are ensuring cohesion of the group. And you're going to need people who are more thought-oriented, who are those content experts, who are the creative people who have the information and can do the problem solving. When it comes to our teams, before we go on here, so this idea, let's just go, of these team roles comes from a gentleman named Meredith Belbin. He's a management consultant in the UK. And what he's looking at is that some roles are compatible and can be easily filled by the same person. So you might have in your team people filling multiple roles, and some roles are less compatible, and so you need different people to showcase different behaviors. And so that's how we came up with kind of these 3 areas, because these are the ones that are really our separate kinds of personalities. In terms of the second aspect of team behavior, the second one is norms. So when you have a team, there are standards or expectations that are accepted and shared by the group members. So when we look at building a team, these are the expectations set by the rest of the team. What are we expecting from the team members in terms of the amount of contribution or effort that each team member provides? How much input, how much involvement is expected? It can also set norms for things like dress code, how we present ourselves when we meet as a team, what is accepted in terms of how we interact, how we look. Those are the norms that are set by the group being together, and it's informally setting those expectations. And what pushes the team to abide by those standards is the idea of conformity. So we adjust behavior to align with the group. We have a desire to be liked and to be accepted. We want to be part of the team and not ostracized or excluded from the group. And so we tend to conform. We tend to dress like the team, behave like the team, put in just as much effort, speak up just as much as other members of the team. So we start to see this norming we talked about in terms of Tuckman's group development. That group, as it's trying to find cohesion, is starting to accept these standards and expectations because they want to be included and not excluded from the group. The other thing we see with teams is that there is ranking within them. So there is a status system. So if you think about projects, teams you've been involved in, maybe it's a team sport, maybe it's a school project. Think about your team. There tends to be general agreement within a team in terms of who is considered low rank, medium rank, or high rank. So if you think about a team, maybe you were assigned a project and you have a group. There are some people you see as low rank, right? Maybe they are not as smart. They don't contribute as much on the project. They're lazy, social loafers. They don't do as much. Groups tend to have a general agreement in terms of who the low rank is. They also tend to have an agreement in terms of the high rank is. So who is the leader? Who is the spokesperson? Who is the one who delegates the tasks? We generally accept collectively who that person is. There needs to be congruence between the perceived rank, both by the group and by the individual. So if you think that you're contributing, maybe you think you're middle or high rank, and the team thinks you are low rank, there's this discrepancy between how you perceive who you are in the team and how the group sees you. That tends to motivate. So we tend to try to bridge that gap between how we think we are seen and how we see ourselves. The other thing is that we need congruence between how we perceive our rank and the status symbols. So if you are higher rank within the within the team, maybe because you're greater, you're more charismatic. So you're seen as more of the leader. Maybe you're more outspoken. So you're going to be the one who represents the team to external bodies. Then there needs to be a status symbol that ties to that rank. People expect there to be a status symbol attached to a rank. So the team lead would have more pay or would have more power or has a greater speaking role. There's some kind of status symbol tied to that ranking system. It's what we expect when we are part of a group. And we recognize that those status symbols can be anything that the group admires. So it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be a pay disparity between people in your team. It can simply be about respect. It can simply be about perceived authority. It could be about representation. The team gets represented. Maybe the team presents their work to upper management. And so the status symbol is those who do the presenting, those type of components. So we have generally this perceived ranking system within the group. We tend to agree on what that ranking system is, and there tends to be some kind of status symbol attached to it. And it can simply be to the level of deference or respect that's shown to certain people who are seen as higher rank within the team. The fifth aspect, when we're looking at teams in terms of their behavior, is the size of the team. And we've already talked about the size of the team in a previous video. So sometimes you want a small team, maybe 5 to 7 people. Maybe you want a bigger team, 12 plus. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish. As we talked about previously, the smaller groups will complete tasks much quicker. They can figure out what to do. They can get the job done. If you need more diverse input, if you need more creativity, if it's a much bigger thing to tackle, then we need a larger group. but we recognize that larger groups take longer to come to consensus, and so they aren't as agile as the smaller groups. The other thing to recognize is that larger groups can suffer from social loafing, the tendency of individuals to expend less effort when working collectively, right? You just assume somebody else in your team is going to pick up the slack and do that. So we can avoid social loafing with smaller teams. So perhaps in your course projects, you've noticed that your instructors build teams usually around the 3 or 4 size, because the smaller groups, we give you lots to do and we give you a smaller group. It's harder for someone to just not contribute their portion of the project. The other piece in terms of avoiding social loafing is that we need ways to make sure that we can measure the individual contributions, not just the collective. So when we talked about groups versus teams, remember the team differentiator was we were measuring the collective. But if we look at the mentality of workers in North America, where we all are very individualistic, we still expect that individual evaluation of our performance, that we can recognize the individual contributions we made to the team. Those portions, recognition is important to us individually in terms of our personal motivation, but also to avoid social loafing. In the next video, we'll talk more about more collective societies where you see less of this, because the culture is more collective and less individualistic. And so these aspects really are much more prevalent in more North American and Western type cultures. The 6th aspect we want to look at here is group cohesion. So we talked about, in terms of Tuckman's stages of group development, the importance of the storming in terms of that conflict initially and the norming so that we can have that effective performance. So as we look at our team, how cohesive are we? How well do we work together? How tight-knit are we? So what you can see here on this table is a measure of cohesion. So how closely do we work together? Do we get along? Versus do we have agreement or consensus on the goals of our team? So groups that have a lot of disagreements, that lack cooperation, that don't like each other, they don't have a lot of cohesion, they're going to be less effective. Now, if you have a group that is cohesive, so they cooperate, they like each other, and they have agreement on the goals, what we're trying to achieve, then you're going to see a highly productive team. That's the top left of this table here. If you have a group that has low cohesion, they don't like each other, they don't respect each other, they don't work well together, and they can't even agree on the goals the team is trying to achieve, you're going to have productivity is really not going to be benefited here. If you have high cohesion, so we get along well, we cooperate, we agree, but we don't have alignment in terms of the goals, then we're working together, but we're working together in the wrong direction. And so we're not benefiting the organization. If we can at least achieve low cohesion, so at least a low level of cooperation and respect, and we have agreement in terms of the goals, what we're trying to achieve, then at least we'll see a moderate increase in productivity. So some level of cohesion is necessary. If you have cohesion, but you don't have that vision and goals, then the concern, of course, is that the group works well, but it's moving in the wrong direction.